Pushy People number 5. My mother-in-law showed up at our house completely unannounced and demanded that I get rid of my cat. I'm 38 years old and I work as a structural engineer. I live with my husband and our cat. This past Friday, my mother-in-law suddenly appeared on our doorstep with a suitcase and announced that she was here for a vacation. She has a habit of showing up without warning or an invitation, so unfortunately, that part wasn't exactly new. She's also never liked the fact that we have a cat, but I definitely wasn't expecting what happened next. At some point, she started comparing our cat to termites and mold, and then she actually looked at me and said, "If you're willing to let an animal destroy your home, how can anyone trust you to build safe buildings?" That really got to me. I've spent years working hard to build my career, and somehow she managed to reduce all of that to an insult over the fact that I own a cat. Then last night, she gave me an ultimatum. Her exact words were, "It's either me or the cat. If you care about this family, prove it. Get rid of her." I told her the cat wasn't going anywhere. This is my home, and she doesn't get to show up here and decide who is allowed to live in it. She immediately started yelling that I always have to control everything, then stormed off and locked herself in the guest room. This morning, she left without saying a single word. Now my husband is stuck in the middle, and I'm still furious about the whole thing. Because this wasn't just about her not liking my cat. She deliberately went after the things that matter to me. My career, my sense of stability, and even my idea of what family is supposed to mean. Seriously, how do you show up uninvited at someone else's house and then demand that they get rid of their own pet? Someone tried to steal our campsite. We have an amazing group of friends, and every year over Labor Day weekend, we all go camping together. 7 adults, 4 kids, and 3 vehicles. We pay an extra fee for the 3rd vehicle, but we're still completely within the campground's limits for both people and vehicles. Reservations open 11 months in advance, and every year, we make sure to book the same large campsite as early as possible. And honestly, it's easily the best site in the entire campground. It has a pull-through spot for the trailer. It's private, huge, set back from the road, surrounded by trees, and has an amazing view of the woods. Basically, it's perfect. Some of the other campsites, though, are much smaller and more cramped. I was the first one from our group to arrive at around 9 Friday night. By then, almost every campsite was occupied. There was only one empty site, except it wasn't ours. It was the tiny site next to ours, and one look at it was enough to know that our 33-foot trailer was absolutely not going to fit there. Meanwhile, the people who had taken our campsite had what looked like a trailer straight out of the 1980s. We're basically in the middle of nowhere, so I'll admit I was a little nervous when I walked over and knocked on their door. I switched on my best Oklahoma accent, summoned my inner polite Southern lady, and said, "Sorry to bother you. Here's my reservation confirmation. I think you might be in our campsite." The woman immediately replied, "Oh no, we reserved this site." "Ma'am, could I see your confirmation email? If the campground accidentally double booked us, we'll figure something out." "Give me a minute, we'll find it." She closed the door, and then nothing. I stood there for 10 minutes in complete silence. So I called the campground ranger. He told me he'd be there in about 30 minutes. I waited another 10 minutes and knocked again. "Any luck finding that email?" She looked at me and asked, "Where do I go to find it? On the website?" "No, ma'am, it should be in your email." Then her attitude changed. "What exactly do you want us to do? Our kids are sleeping." "Ma'am, mine are sleeping in the car, I understand, but our trailer physically won't fit on that smaller site. If we can't set up here, we literally have nowhere to sleep tonight." Still, somehow, they couldn't find that confirmation email. Eventually, my friend arrived with our trailer, and almost immediately afterward, the ranger showed up. And wouldn't you know it? Suddenly, they found their reservation, and surprise, surprise, they were supposed to be on the tiny campsite next door. That's when they started negotiating with the ranger. "But we're leaving tomorrow morning. Can't we just stay here for one night? It's really difficult to back the trailer into another site just for one night." At that point, we decided to be nice about it. "Okay, we'll find somewhere else to sleep tonight, but you need to have the site cleared by 7 tomorrow morning so we can get set up." They immediately replied, "How about 11? That's checkout time." "No, this is our campsite. We're already doing you a favor by letting you stay here tonight. We have a full day planned tomorrow, and we need to be set up by 8. "That early? But we have kids." "Fine, we'll try to be out by then." The ranger, who clearly understood exactly what kind of circus was going to happen at 7 in the morning, finally stepped in. "No, move the trailer now." "But our kids are sleeping." The ranger pointed at me. "So are hers. Move." After plenty of grumbling and complaining, they finally moved their trailer, and it took them a solid 45 minutes to squeeze the thing into that microscopic campsite. Fast forward to Sunday. Their screaming kids and little dogs running around without leashes were still very much at the campsite next to us. Thankfully, the sites are spaced pretty far apart, and the trees block most of the noise. Then yesterday morning, I heard one of their kids yell, "Why aren't we staying at the nice campsite anymore?" A woman, either the mother or grandmother, I honestly couldn't tell because I was reading and wasn't looking over, shouted back, "Because those people took our campsite." Well, friends, maybe you should have reserved it 11 months ago like we did. Normally, our group cooks way more food than we can possibly eat, and we love sharing whatever's left with our camping neighbors. Not this time. No steaks for you. Update. It's now Monday, checkout time is 11 in the morning, and as we were leaving, our lovely neighbors were still completely set up. They weren't even packing, so exactly as we suspected, their whole "we're leaving tomorrow morning" story was complete bullshit. From what we could tell, there were 3 adults over there, 1 man, an older woman, and another woman who looked to be in her 40s, plus several young kids. The older woman was definitely the one causing most of the drama, although thankfully, it never went beyond passive-aggressive comments. The younger woman was much calmer. And here's the part I wasn't expecting. Last night, the younger woman actually walked over to our campsite and apologized for the older woman's behavior. She told us, "We told her this was a bad idea, but she wouldn't listen. She just wanted the bigger campsite. She does stuff like this all the time." And she genuinely seemed sorry. So in the end, everything worked out. We lost about an hour at the beginning of our trip, but we still had an amazing weekend with our friends. And hey, now we've got a great story out of it. Plus, nobody slashed our tires. I'd call that a successful camping trip. Happy camping, everyone. My neighbors are demanding that I keep my dogs inside. My neighbors and I moved into our homes about a year ago. We both have front yards, although theirs is slightly bigger than mine, and both properties are fenced. Whenever the weather is nice, I work from my porch while my dogs hang out in the yard. They mostly just lie around, sleep, play with each other, and mind their own business. We've had this routine for about 4 years now. 6 months ago, my neighbors got a cat and decided to let it roam freely wherever it wants. And ever since then, that cat has been constantly getting into my flower pots. I've put a lot of time and effort into making my yard enjoyable for both me and my dogs, so every plant I have is safe for them, and many of them are even edible. Usually, when the cat comes into our yard, my dogs just watch it, or occasionally walk a little closer. They don't chase it, because I've specifically trained them not to. The cat usually sees them and immediately runs back home. If it's already in our yard when we come outside, same thing. It takes off and runs straight back to its own house. I've never chased the cat away, and I've certainly never let my dogs out specifically to scare it or hurt it. But this morning, when I came home from walking my dogs, I found a note attached to our gate. It was from my neighbors. They were demanding that I stop letting my dogs into my own yard because their cat doesn't like them. And apparently, their cat really enjoys hanging out in my yard. Yes, you read that correctly. So I walked over to their house and made it very clear that I wasn't going to follow their ridiculous demand. My dogs are on their own property. They aren't bothering anyone, and they don't chase their cat. And you know what they said? They pointed out that I already walk my dogs twice a day, take them to training, and go hiking with them on weekends. Therefore, according to them, my dogs don't need any additional time outside in the yard. Their cat, on the other hand, spends most of its life outdoors, so apparently it would be cruel to take away its ability to relax in my yard. Especially because, according to them, he really likes lying in my plants. I suggested that maybe they should take care of their own yard and plant some things their cat would enjoy over there. Their response? They slammed the door in my face and threatened to call animal control if their cat ever had to run from my yard back to their house again. So now I'm sitting here wondering what exactly I'm supposed to do next. I'm also trying to figure out where these people are getting this magical entitlement potion they apparently drink by the gallon, and more importantly, who the hell is brewing it? Update. After reading everyone's advice, I've decided to try several of the suggestions. First, I changed the angle of my security camera and ordered another one, so I'll have complete coverage of the entire front yard. Second, I'm going to plant more lavender, rosemary, and geraniums, and I'll keep looking for other suitable plants as well. And as quite a few people suggested, I may also discreetly scatter some catnip seeds on their lawn and get a few of the other neighbors involved. Third, I'm definitely buying some oranges today and using the peels as a natural deterrent. On our next hiking trip, I'll also collect some more pine cones to add to my little anti-cat arsenal. I've started researching how to safely use essential oils, and I've already tried the suggestion involving forks in the soil. Fourth, and probably most importantly, I checked our local animal regulations. While there technically isn't a leash law specifically for cats, the rules clearly state that animals are supposed to remain on their owner's property. So I'm going to call animal control myself, get the situation officially documented, and ask them to give my neighbors a warning and a polite reminder about the law. And with that taken care of, my furry little crew and I can go right back to peacefully enjoying our own yard, knowing that I'm now fully prepared for any future invasions from Mr. Fluffy. Our entitled neighbor called the cops on my parents because my husband was hunting on their own property. My retired parents live in a small house on about 7 acres of land. It's not a massive property, but it's peaceful, private, and sits just outside the city limits. Most of the land is wooded, with a creek running right through the middle. Honestly, it's beautiful. Because of the woods and the water, wildlife constantly passes through their property, including plenty of deer. A few years ago, we bought my parents some trail cameras for Christmas so they could see what was wandering around their land. My mom loves photography, and over the years, she's gotten some incredible pictures of deer, foxes, wild turkeys, coyotes, and all kinds of other wildlife passing through their yard. So, as you can probably imagine, it's also a great place to hunt. My husband enjoys hunting occasionally, and every once in a while, he'll go out there during deer season. He doesn't do it very often, though. Over the years, several people have asked my parents for permission to hunt on their property, and they've always said no. Their land barely meets the legal minimum for hunting, and understandably, they don't want random people wandering around their property with guns. Their son-in-law, though, that's different. He's family, and they trust him. Unfortunately, there's one neighbor farther down the road who has been trying to get permission to hunt there for years. My parents have told him no repeatedly. They've even asked him to stop asking. He doesn't seem to understand the word no. Last year, my husband went into the woods and discovered a hunting stand that definitely didn't belong to him. Then, when my parents checked their trail cameras, they discovered that the SD cards were missing. We don't have any proof that this particular neighbor was responsible, but let's just say he's the obvious suspect. My parents travel pretty often, so it wouldn't have been difficult for someone to sneak onto the property while they were gone. My husband removed the mystery hunting stand, and my parents replaced their cameras with newer ones that don't rely on removable SD cards. Then, last month, just before deer season opened, guess who asked my parents for permission to hunt on their land again? Yep, same neighbor. And once again, they told him no. They explained very clearly that they don't allow anyone to hunt there except their son-in-law. This year, my husband decided to try his luck. He got all the proper permits and went out on opening day. And within literally 10 minutes of walking into the woods, he got a large buck. My dad heard the shot and came outside to see if my husband needed any help. My husband field dressed the deer right there, and my dad, who is genuinely one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, fired up his tractor, drove into the woods, lifted the deer with a bucket, and loaded it into the bed of my husband's pickup. And just like that, my husband's deer season was basically over, almost as soon as it started. About an hour later, a sheriff's deputy and a game warden pulled into my parents' driveway. Apparently, someone had reported illegal hunting and poaching on their property. And the officer actually told my dad, who had called. It was that neighbor. According to him, the property owners supposedly didn't allow anyone to hunt there, but he had seen someone enter the woods with a shotgun. Then he'd heard a gunshot, and afterward, he'd seen someone driving an orange tractor into the woods, picking up a deer and loading it into the back of a black pickup truck. Here's what makes this especially nasty. In our state, if you're caught poaching, authorities can potentially confiscate your firearm, hunting equipment, and even vehicles used during the hunt. So it certainly looked like our neighbor was hoping my husband would lose his shotgun and his pickup, and maybe even my dad's tractor. My dad looked at the officers and basically said, "This is my house, and this is my property. The orange tractor is mine too. The black pickup belongs to my son-in-law, and he has my permission to hunt here whenever he wants." My husband showed them his valid deer tags and hunting permit. Everything was completely legal, and that was pretty much the end of it. As for the neighbor, he can go kick rocks, because apparently, this guy was literally sitting on his property with binoculars watching my parents' woods. There's really no other way he could have seen everything he described from where he lives. Edit. Since I've gotten a ridiculous number of comments and messages about this, I want to clear something up. Yes, my husband hunts deer with a shotgun. A lot of people were surprised by that because, where we live, it's actually the opposite of what they expected. Hunting deer with a rifle isn't allowed in our area. Shotguns are. He uses slugs, not buckshot. That's completely normal here. The terrain in our area is extremely flat and relatively open, which makes high-powered rifle rounds a safety concern because they can travel a very long distance. Shotgun slugs have a much shorter effective range while still being appropriate for deer hunting. And because a slug is a single projectile rather than a load of pellets, you're not leaving a bunch of shot in the meat. That's why, in more populated areas and on smaller properties like this one, shotguns are considered the safer option. A slug isn't going to keep traveling for miles the way a rifle bullet potentially can. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. If you have any thoughts about what happened, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.